All right, hello worldwide photo walkers. My name is Terry White, worldwide design and photography evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to give you some tips and tricks for processing the images from your photo walk. So I'll do one of these for landscapes, do one of these for mobile, but in this case, we're doing one for people that are going to be walking around like a downtown area, maybe taking the Skyline, taking pictures in a very popular city or something to that effect. So basically travel photography. If you are shooting a scene like this is from New York. We can see Freedom Tower here. And this again is just kind of out of the camera with no adjustments to it. So I'm going to walk you through a few tips to make a photo like this better, make it stand out a little bit more, and possibly win some prizes on your photo walk. So first and foremost, as I always like to tell people, I always enable the lens correction. Which will kind of take some of the lens distortion out of the photo to make the photo look better right off the bat. And again, if you shot with a mirrorless, you may not need to do that because a lot of the new mirrorless cameras do that in the body now, so you don't have to do it in post. Next up, we're going to go in and take a look at actually one of the areas in Lightroom that I tend to always want to use when I'm doing something like a city scene or shooting any kind of buildings from the ground level. Now, this was actually out on a boat, but still shooting back at the skyline, I can tell that the tower is leaning a little bit to the left. This one's leaning a little bit to the left. These are leaning a little bit to the right. And that's just typically what happens when you shoot something or shooting a tower that's not straight on. So one of the things I would recommend is going to the geometry area of Lightroom. And you can do this even on your phone. You can do this on your tablet. Doesn't matter where you are in Lightroom, you have this option. And we're going to use upright, and we're going to just simply set it to auto. Now watch this building right here. You'll be able to see it right away. So auto upright, and it will make that correction just that easily. Now, if it didn't make it to your satisfaction, you also have the option of doing guided. So let's turn it off for a second. I'll show you how guided works. If you do a guided upright, nothing happens right away because it's waiting for you to draw out at least two guides. So I'm going to draw one guide on this side for what should be straight. And nothing's going to happen because it needs at least two. I'm going to drag out a second guide on this side for what should be straight. And it should take those two guides and make the adjustment accordingly. Now, I would need to crop in this case or zoom the photo, but it's straightening it based on the guides that I draw. So if you are saying, nope, auto's not quite what I need, I'm going to go ahead and tell it what to straighten by. That way you're going to get your buildings exactly or straight as you exactly wanted them to be. So again, that's guided. I'm going to use auto because auto was doing what I wanted, but you have the option to do both. Now, next up, while we're here, the sky is a little washed out. So let's go ahead and make a couple changes. Let's change our profile to either landscape or vivid. In this case, I like vivid. Let's go ahead and change our white balance to perhaps, nope, daylight's not it. It's a little too bluish. Cloudy is better. And then we're going to go ahead and hit that auto tone button, which will make a lot of our adjustments for us. Ooh, that really toned it. That really tried to bring back some of the sky. And if it's too much, these are just sliders, so you can adjust them to your heart's content. So if it didn't do it enough, you can make it more. If it did too much, you can make it less. So in this case, I'm going to just turn, let's see what the vibrance does. So I kind of like the vibrance where it is. I'm going to put the saturation back to 0. I'm going to bring the contrast up a little bit more. And I'm going to go down, and one of the things that auto does not do is it doesn't do any of the effects. So if you want to dehaze, auto's not going to do that for you. So we can add a little bit more dehaze in there. And while I'm at it, I'm going to bring the shadows up a bit more than what it was recommending. Let's bring those shadows from the buildings down at the bottom out a little bit more. Now this part, switch photos real quick there. Now this part in the upper left-hand corner is still a little bit washed out for my taste. And that's just what the sky looked like. But we can go in, perhaps use an adjustment brush. So let's go ahead and just simply brush that area of the sky. And based on whatever my adjustment brush is on right now, I can see a difference already. Just make sure we get those edges so it doesn't look like we painted it. There we go. Now, it's, again, applying whatever my settings were right now. I'm not worried about what the settings are. I'm just worried about covering the area of the sky, and then I'll adjust the settings accordingly. Just getting all of this covered. Whatever it's on, it's a little too much. Once I got that in place, then I can go look at what it is. So I can see the exposure's been turned down on this. I can bring the exposure back up a little bit. I can also see that the haze again, it's picking up the settings from what I did last. That's too much dehaze. Let's bring it back down. So we can just work with exposure and just bring down that part of the sky a little bit more. You can also work with other things. So if you want more saturation in an area, there's not a lot there. There's not a lot of detail there to work with, but you can go ahead and make any other adjustments that you want. Let's bring down the highlights a little bit more. We're just trying to not make it completely white. And that's bringing back some more of that detail in the sky. So using an adjustment brush, you're only adjusting that part of the photo with a non-destructive adjustment. We can also maybe even use the temperature slider to kind of, that's adding a little bit more blue to that area of the sky. And that's kind of just filling it in and giving us that area that looks a lot better than what we started with. So once again, just to see how quickly we've gone, here's the before, completely washed out sky, buildings are crooked, drab looking photo, to something that looks a lot more presentable. Now, there's a spot here, I'm sure that's a cloud. Sometimes you'll have distracting elements in your photo that are naturally there. You can go ahead and just simply remove those, because we don't want someone distracted by something that really isn't helping the photo. So any areas that aren't helping, feel free to remove those. Here's another cloud area here that really isn't adding much to the photo. So I'm just going to use the spot removal tool to help me with that, or the healing brush actually to help me with that. All right, so there we are. A quick retouch of a city scene, a cityscape right here in Lightroom for your photo walk. Have a great photo walk, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.